Promise by Co Chien Bridge. Co Chien Bridge today, standing on the bridge, strong wind and heavy rain. Time goes back to 7 years ago. In 2013, the Co Chien Bridge project, connecting the two provinces of Vinh and Ben Tre, was started. At that time we were together, experiencing sweet days, angry days, days when students shared each other. Happy noodles. Those days, those who have never experienced it, will not taste its aftertaste, just like when it is sunny, but eating a cool piece of watermelon. Happily, at that time, you and I held hands and went through the provinces of the Mekong Delta. Everywhere, there were memory footprints, sweet kisses of youth. In 2014, we graduated from the university, once again crossing Co Chien Ferry. He said, as soon as Co Chien Bridge is inaugurated and open to traffic, let's get married. I'm happy to put a kiss on your cheek, despite all the strange looks. It is said, love is like the afternoon sun that warms the heart of every person. At that time, our love made many people admire and covet. But then, everything gradually fell apart. Graduating from school, many worries, jobs, careers, family, friends, and geographical distance made the two of us gradually fall into the endless space in love. Our disagreements grew bigger and bigger. And finally, could not be reconciled when the two could not agree on where to live after marriage. The day Co Chien Bridge was inaugurated and opened to traffic was also the day we painfully said goodbye to each other, after 6 years of love and attachment. Nothing is easy, there are tears, there are pain, there are days of self-pity. Ending a relationship is not necessarily easy, but sometimes it opens a new happy path. Since then I have not once set foot in Ben Tre. Today, standing on the bridge that we once had together as a wish, I shed tears thinking of you. The rain is falling on my head, the breeze makes me cold, the tears blend into the screen. Bitter rain. A shirt with a warm and faint scent of a man draped lightly on my shoulder. He reached out to wipe away the tears mixed with rainwater on my face, smiling gently. Beautiful memories, right? I don't. Jealous of the past, because I know I am your present and future. Be your present, worry about your future. You deserve to be happy, girl. I smiled and thanked him. This man, I know him at a friend's birthday party. When I was young, I had a student love affair with a heart of pure innocence, so that when I was more mature, I was attached to a glue man. There are no sweet and romantic days between us, no sulk, no cooing, but the sharing, sympathy, understanding of a mature love, living together tirelessly. Co Chien, and then you and I also got married, but we didn't get married. I married another girl and lived a peaceful life, and you also stopped struggling in a young student love. I will carve into my mind the past and keep this promise as a good memory. Close the past, end the promise by this bridge. Suddenly, my heart felt light. I dropped a hair into the river, the water still flows smoothly as if silently recording the end of today. Suddenly realized everything will turn into wind and clouds. Don't give up pearls, but embrace the rubble that has long been ruined. I am also busy with happiness with my current man. You present my pearl. Heart with pineapple flavor. I saw him, lying on a wooden bench, one hand on his forehead, silent in the morning sunlight. Then he suddenly sat up, ran his hand over his messy head, and then looked over at me. I stood on the balcony next to me, holding a stone lotus pot in my hand. When I met his eyes, I smiled, probably very bright. But he just nodded his head slightly and got up to go inside. The sun fell behind him in a long, pristine streak. I moved to this city at the beginning of 11th grade, living with my grandmother and aunt in an old but lovely 2-story house. He's the next door neighbor. His house also has a balcony on the same level as mine, but it's large and has many ornamental plants. Looks like a green, fresh mini garden. As usual, I just opened the gate to go to school when at the same time, the house next door heard the sound of the gate opening. And he stepped out with a familiar sports bike. He saw me, just tilted his head slightly to say hello. While I smile very friendly. Sometimes I also want to say a polite sentence like, good morning, for example. But his cold face makes me not brave enough to say. Then he turned away, got on his bike, and disappeared around the corner. We went to the same school, but different classes. So I rarely see him at school, and if I do, it's always the image of him wearing headphones, standing outside the classroom railing, floating in the air. At that time, he looked really sad. Until one day, I understood why he always looked so thoughtful, quiet and sad. One Sunday morning, I was watering the cactus pots on the balcony when I heard the sound of knocking from 2 houses next door. "Don't worry about studying, what's the point of spending all day drawing nonsense?" It was his father's angry shout, but all I noticed was the silence that followed when there was no response from him. And I heard a loud closing sound. At that time, I suddenly felt restless and worried in my heart. My eyes kept looking towards the balcony next to me. Moments later, there was a clatter of furniture. He seemed to be cleaning up the mess, just now, collecting even the broken green fragments. That afternoon, he asked us to bring some of the floating cakes he had made to the noodles. After knocking on the door, the person who opened the gate was you. He still looks very nervous, now that his face never shows any emotion, but in the bottom of his eyes, there is still a bit of callousness, a bit of carelessness. "Is there anything?" The deep voice made me stop staring into people's eyes. I held out the box of cookies in my hand. "My grandmother gave you some cake." He reached out to receive it. One hand was scratched and smeared with a few watercolor stains. "Are you okay?" "No, thank you." After saying that, he slowly closed the gate, leaving a sob in me. The next morning, I met him at the gate. "Independence," I called out when I saw him getting ready to get in the car. He stopped and looked at me. I ran over, putting the ergo bandage I had in my pocket. "Since I thought you needed it, as expected, the scratch on your hand wasn't handled properly. You use it." Tom looked at me for a long time, then hesitantly said, "I'll use it, thanks." He shoved the bandage into his pocket, climbed into the distance, and kicked off. He actually uses it, which makes me very happy. It's just, that face makes me nervous. After that, he was less cold towards me. I notice that because every time I say good morning to him, he smiles back, just not very bright, but I think one day, that smile will be as bright, like the summer sun. The last class ended, some friends asked me out. My first friend didn't want to go. Come to think of it, I just moved here not long after. If I refused, it wouldn't be so nice. So I agreed. While happily accompanying them to the parking lot, I was immediately pulled by someone by the hand. It was the hand that haunted me forever. "What's up?" I pulled Khan's hand away after being dragged a long way. "You shouldn't hang out with those people, they're all playboys, often disciplined in school." Khan looked extremely strict and surprised me, then I laughed lightly. "Are you taking care of me?" Khan appeared confused. "It's just, your grandma won't like it, you better go home, you're late for the bus." Then he shocked his backpack and left, and I also went to the school gate. I felt strangely happy to see that he cared about me. That handshake, too, made me think about many things. Since then, every time I see him, I feel my heart skip a beat. One Sunday morning is far away. I want to go out and wander somewhere because today's sky is very beautiful and my mood is very good. As soon as I stepped out of the gate, I paused for a few seconds. Sure enough, the next door heard the door open. Khan came out in a white t-shirt and black pants. Look a lot more active when going to school. He had a backpack and a pencil case on his shoulder, with no bicycle beside him. When he saw me, he smiled, lightly. "Done, step back." "Wait, Khan." I involuntarily called after him and ran towards him. "Why don't you ride today?" "I'm going away." "Where are you going?" "See." Khan walked again, I followed his shadow. Suddenly, he stopped and turned his head back. Do you want to come along?" So the two of them took the bus to the beach. An hour later, I also set foot on the empty white sand because this sea is forbidden to swim. Wow, it's been a while since I've seen the sea. I cheered when I saw the waves lapping the shore with white foam. Contrary to my excitement, Khan slowly took off his shoes and sat down on the fine sand and took out a pen and paper. sketching the first lines. Turns out you're going to draw. I asked as I took off my shoes, set them aside like you, and sat down next to me. Con nodded. You draw really well, it only takes a moment. Are you going to be an architect? Con mused. Perhaps it is, and it isn't. Huh? I find it difficult to understand. Dad wants me to study economics. I remember the time when the scuffle, a difficult father toppled his son's dream. Actually, I don't think you should give up. It's a dream you worked so hard to build. It's also a blessing that you know what you want. Con did not answer. He worked hard to paint his ocean picture, then looked at me. So what are your plans? I look at the sea. I wanted to be a contemporary dancer, but that was a year ago, when I didn't have an ankle injury, and now. I don't know. Con looked at my feet, silent. Now that you can afford it, continue. Later I will ask you to design my house. I laughed optimistically, hoping he would be just as optimistic. Con sighed and continued to finish the drawing. When the sun became hot and harsh, we got up and took the car to the city. I saw that since then, you kept thinking about something silently, but I didn't ask. The next day, as soon as I came out of the gate, I saw him standing with his back to the wall, his face enjoying the fresh morning air. What are you standing here for? Wait until you go to school with me. Huh? I was extremely surprised. He just smiled and urged. Let's go, or we'll be late for the bus. And so on the daily road, more of his sun-drenched footprints passed. One afternoon, when he and I were on our way home from the bus station, when we reached the door of the mini supermarket, he immediately said, "Wait a minute, I have to buy some things for Mom." He said and ran into the store. After a while he took out his bag. We walked together again, on the path of flying mother-of-pearl leaves in the days of changing leaves. Arriving at his gate, he opened the package and gave me a fresh yellow pineapple. For you, it's delicious, so I bought it for you. Natural for me? I find it a bit confusing. He pushed the pineapple into my lap, then turned to open the gate. But before entering, he looked at my still bewildered face, smiled slightly, and lowered his voice. I like you. My face was dumbfounded, and when I woke up, I stammered a sentence. I mean, you're using this pineapple to confess? But he went in and closed the gate. I hesitated for a few seconds, looking down at the pineapple in my hand and smiling. Perhaps behind that gate, there is also a heart beating in the chest.